it's I keep, when I do this, I see it, I'm just doing basic interpretation. As soon as it starts to crystallize, I realize, but this is for a whole generation. Everyone born for 20 years or more is going to have this. So of everybody born, everyone from 0 to 30 years old, by the time you're at the end of this period, not everybody is fighting, not everybody, you're going to have a whole spectrum of experience how this has worked out. But the attitude of the Pluto in the Scorpio and in the Aries will be there. And the Mars rulership, it's about strength and force and courage. If you don't face your fears, if you don't fight them, if you don't step up, you'll step down and be afraid of facing them, afraid of doing, run into bullies or gangs or rapes or whatever. So what controls are there? And what Mars is also the work you do. So what kind of work do you have? Kids born with Pluto and Scorpio, it's hard to find good jobs now. You either have great jobs or no jobs. It's difficult, it's challenging. So this issue, it's hard to do things with people with Pluto and Aries or Scorpio because their instinct is to have to push it all the way or push it as far as they can. And if you do something wrong, they'll be threatened by it, they'll be challenging it. Whereas Venus, Pluto and Venus signs, Taurus and Libra, will be confronted by discontent. How do you sleep with someone if you don't like them, and if you don't want to be touched, how do you pretend it's okay? You can't. And so it's a different haunting quality that has the fear or the complex behind it. I'm just talking outer images, but there is an inner quality where this broods and festers until it gets triggered off at times. You see those times in the transits and in the progressions, but you see the predispositions of them by the natal positions. So if someone has Pluto in Mars or Scorpio, but Mars is in some other sign that's not squaring it or not in that sign or whatever, that Mars, if that Mars is afflicted or hit by other planets, it's going to magnify that, and this sphere is going to be underneath it. If it's in a sign where there's no hassles or any, if it's not making any, and it's not afflicted, no bad aspects, it might have that fear, but it's not going to affect it that strongly. It's only going to come up at certain times because they're using that energy in a different way. But the comparison to the generation of how everyone else is doing will still be there. That competitiveness will be there with the Mars. If you took it to deeper levels, yeah, competitiveness, force. In Venus, it would be the vanity or the lust, and the power of lust and the power of vanity of gimme, gimme, get would be Pluto affecting the Venus. So the same way as I'm saying, it's almost like you're seeing it like an aspect, but it's not an aspect. The aspects are direct, and you really can see the energy. Here, there's just a tendency towards that, or line to it. Then in life, when anything comes up of that nature, that's going to respond. That's where your Pluto is. When anything fearful comes up, you're going to try and do something or fight it. Whenever a confrontation with Pluto comes up, if you have the Venus, because on the Venus side, you're not going to want it, and you're going to figure, how do I get out of this choice? So it just changes. Each has its own level. I don't know how to explain it, but all I can do is just show you as I'm doing it. We've done it with all the planets, and each one's been different. This is a different puzzle. And even now I'm probably saying too many words. But, okay, when it comes up to Jupiter, to Sag and Pisces, the Jupiter rulerships, it's a fight over what's right or wrong, over principles and morals and ethics and beliefs. It's a fight over the Jupiter. So if you have a wrong understanding, the world sucks, everybody's ripping everybody off, so I will too. Well, you could pick up that attitude, but it's not a good attitude. People are going to confront you. And you can have a wrong understanding more than a fearful understanding more than a truthful understanding. So the challenge with Pluto in Sag or Pluto in Pisces, it would be to maintain, to have a truthful understanding and face and fight misunderstandings when they come up. But misunderstandings may come up to try and see which understanding is better. So principles, morality, what's understanding? If you have a bad understanding, if you have a fearful understanding, your understanding is going to guide your actions. And that action is going to that action is going to determine what you accomplish, Saturn, with your life. So the presence is there. You're just looking at a predisposition that you have just because of the time you're born at. But these factors are generational factors. So everyone you know around you is going to happen. There's a chance that you and your teacher could still have the same Pluto in the same sign. That may make a closer bond, but if you have an older teacher, for sure Pluto will be in a different sign. And there'll be a different focus on what they're afraid of and what you're afraid of. But the power struggle, what's true, the truth and consequences. The Auditor General of Pluto is going to be auditing your understanding. The minute you do something wrong, someone's going to be fighting you or encouraging you to go farther. And it's mutable signs. There'll be many different challenges over deciding what's right and what's wrong. And you'll get the results if you'll decide that whoever's smoking up is smoking, doesn't hurt anybody, it's a nice thing. So you hang around with people smoking up, everyone there, you're helping and doing. Then when everybody starts getting sick, and you too, you got nothing to say because you can't complain because you're sick. You knew it, but your understanding was off. So then you get a little wisdom as you get older, and you try and pass it on to your grandkids or something. But the Pluto in these signs is going to put the challenge on the understanding. So if you're trying to grasp it, it's in a certain sign, and you want to visualize first, you first see off the top, you'd see the Pluto affecting the sign. Pluto in Cancer, it's affecting the domestic fears. Then you look at the chart to see if how those domestic fears are manifested. And so, okay. When you get to Pluto going up into Capricorn and Aquarius, where it is now and will be for the next 25, 30, 25 or more years, it's in Saturn worship, fear of control, fear of governments, extreme controls, excessive controls, forceful, extreme taxes, extreme fears of discipline, fears of career. What am I going to do? Or what do I have to do? It makes these areas obsessive, confrontational. Who's fighting you for what job? What do you have to do to be there? How do you get along with the boss? What do you have to achieve? How much work do you have to do? The work's piled on. You're having to do things as what you want. It's all, your Saturn is it's in its own sign that it rules. So the discipline, self-discipline will pay off. So if you force self-discipline, well, you probably will get by well with it around careers and that. But that doesn't mean you're going to have a very adventurous personal life. Your Pluto, so a lot of people were in the 80s, late 80s, 90s have the Uranus, Neptune, Saturn conjunct in Capricorn, and the Pluto in Scorpio, I think it is, coming up. So with all that pile up in planet this issue of controls, of jobs, of works, of commitments. Like even today, what are you going to study? What kind of job are you going to get? What kind of thing you're going to work at? There's fears that there may not even be jobs there. There's fears that you have to compromise too much to have the job, so you almost have to be a slave to be the job. And who's in authority in saying what your job can do? I mean, it's the place where unions in some ways are balancing off the power of governments, but unions are being put down too, but unions are really stopped as the only break between governments imposing rules and some voice coming up and standing up to it. But these are overly bureaucratic times. Just as with all we're hearing about food's bad, so you have to have organic food. So they say you have to have you have to label if something's organic. So suddenly now organic food is naturally 2 or 3 times the price of regular food, and only the rich can get it. So like it's making it so most people accept any GMO food because they can't afford, just because they can't afford that. There's a Saturn problem in this. Some controls are set, but they're a little more restrictive and isolating. And most of the rules, this is again the conservative Republican thing, the rules that are needed to fix the planet and to help the planet are rules that are going to diminish the wealth of those that have things, and even more of those who have nothing. But there's a fear of losing more than other people. I've got to hold on to this because otherwise I'd be like the rest of them. So the Saturn, respect, honor, dignity, it's nothing if you don't stand up for it. That's the Pluto in Capricorn Aquarius. Where do you stand? What are you doing? And when it's positive, you have people working very strongly or very strongly fixing. When it's negative, you get somebody who's had a very harsh father and been afraid of their father, and why finish school? Why go there? I'll just get stoned or I'll get addicted. You have the whole addicted generation that's oxycontin out and they're hardly able to do any work. And why? Because they had power struggles with parents or over other things. But this is the Pluto to Saturn. So if you have a kid that has that, that's being born now, they're going to find another way. They're going to need some strict self-discipline. They'll need some harsh discipline to keep them so they're capable of harsh discipline themselves. Can't baby them. So this whole generation will have this kind of attitude. Well, really, we're seeing everybody's trying to baby all the kids so much, and everybody's trying to take care of and be responsible for kids so much of their time. Every minute they're being watched, they're never alone, so nothing can happen to them. It's almost an extreme of over control that stifles so much the kids get afraid of growing up. So this can flip around very many ways. But Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius, it implies challenges to governments, rules, regulations, the whole issue of Trump in power. How can he change all these rules for what we built up for years and they're all changing? How can this happen? Yet he's in government, he's doing it. And the response to that, when respect gets diminished in governments, it's going to be diminished by businesses, it's going to be diminished by individuals. So, but just because it's happening doesn't mean you can't stand up and make a point of truth to stand up for what's true for people in authority. People in authority have to be responsible, or else. So there's a very political element to these and a controlling element to Pluto in Capricorn and Aquarius. In a person, it ends up being a harsh discipline, or a caution in themselves, or a fear of that discipline. So some people can be over-controlled by others, some people can be over-controlling. You can go either way, but it's still a Pluto in Capricorn, or Pluto in Aquarius. So I imagine in Pluto in Aquarius, it'll be a bigger fight and cost more to get education, or to get quality education, or to be a teacher. Already it's not fun to be a teacher. There's so many rules and regulations. You know, if a kid in grade 1 is crying, he falls and cries, you can't go give them a hug and pick them up and help give them a hug to reassure them. So it's already very extreme. Pluto in Capricorn is the extreme of necessity of discipline, of rules and regulations. And you see the people fighting it, but you see the rules still coming in. It's happening around the world. Everyone's got the same computers. The world's, the health, the nature's environment's diminishing. It's going to take breaks to stop this. Walls will have to be built around cities near the oceans. Things are going to, it's changing. The world's always changing. This is just where the fears and the confrontation are, where you need to be truthful. But if Pluto's in Saturn rule, you're going to have to be responsibly true. You're going to have to work harder than you want, and it's for maybe less reward, but you still have, there's a, do you do it or don't you? With Jupiter, it's Pluto about your understanding. Do you line up with these guys or that guys? The good or the bad, or the ugly? With Pluto and Mars, do you go with the powerful or avoid the powerful? Pluto means you go with the rich or the beautiful or not? Do you, in the Mercury, who's smart, who's not? Are you using your mind, or are you writing, or aren't you? Moon, personal security, sun, confidence. You see, Pluto's just, we've got all the planets, they're all different layers. That's why I keep this picture here.